Knowles on the News. Susan Knowles.
And welcome to the show, everyone. I am your host, Susan Knowles, and this is a special edition of Stand for Truth Radio that I do called Knowles on the News. Now, you can catch everything I do by going to Spreaker.com or downloading the Spreaker app. Just type in Susan Knowles and you'll find Stand for Truth Radio. You can also follow me on my YouTube channel. Just look for Susan Knowles, and on Twitter at Susan Knowles. Well, this, again, is another week, no exception. So much happening in the news, so much craziness happening in the news. It seems like each and every week it gets worse, and each and every day, actually, it gets worse. But this week was, again, no exception. We had the secretary, the VA secretary, come out, and his name is Robert McDonald. And as you may know or not know, he compared the wait lines to veterans standing in line at the VA or calling on the phone or just waiting for an appointment for ages. He compared that to standing in line at Disneyland. Now, my thoughts are probably he was in Fantasyland when he said that. And I can't believe that somebody had the audacity, somebody who is supposed to be in charge and care about veterans, had the audacity to make an asinine statement like that. I mean, people have died waiting for appointments. Veterans have died waiting for appointments, and he knows that. And then to just kind of laugh it off by saying, well, it's just like, standing in line for a ride at Disneyland. Oh, really? Really? I think being in Disneyland, standing in line would be a little bit more enjoyable than having some medical or physical or psychological problem that you're trying to get help for, Mr. McDonald. And I think you should resign because obviously you don't take your position seriously. I know that I'm not a veteran. My people in my family, my father, my brothers, all veterans. And I can tell you one thing. To sit there and insult veterans like that when you should know better. I don't know who you are.
Maybe somebody who has just been in for so long that you think that you can say anything that you want to say. Well, you can't. And I had a veteran on my Facebook make a great point. He said, perhaps he wants to be fired or he wants to be able to resign because he knows that he's not doing a good job and he's not getting anywhere. Well, and I agree with that to a point, and here's what else I think. I think he knows that, let's say that Donald Trump is elected president. I think he knows that he's probably going to be out of a job in about, a couple of hours. If Donald Trump does what he says that he does in regards to veterans and he really cares about veterans, and there's some doubt. I know some veterans doubt that. Some people in the news doubt that. There are veterans that have petitioned to say, where's the money you said that you raised for us? So there are all sides. But if he does half of what he says he's going to do, then I think he will get rid of Mr. McDonald really quickly. And he needs to. I mean, how many years has it been now? I mean, it seems like a lifetime. It's probably been a short period of time. But what's happened at the VA? You see people every day who get away with committing crimes that you and I would be put in jail for. They're either just excused or they're moved around. Nobody's fired. And again, I don't understand why we don't do anything about it. I know Congress members have gotten involved, and nothing seems to happen. Well, we know why. I answer my own question. We know why. This administration will not allow justice to be served when justice should be served. And I just hope whoever the next administration is, and God forbid it's Hillary Clinton, but if Donald Trump gets in, I hope he does what he says he's going to do, because we need an administration that is going to get this country back on track. And there are those that think that Donald Trump is not going to be able to do that. I don't know. We have right now, I think the lowest point probably that America has been in a very, very long time.
And statements like this from the VA secretary, who's supposed to care about the job he does. He's supposed to care about veterans and giving them what they have earned. You don't earn anything by standing in line at Disneyland, Mr. McDonald, but you do earn things by going over and serving your country and being maimed and oftentimes killed in the process. How dare you compare the wait lines where people have died, committed suicide, waiting to get into the VA. I tell you one thing. I think the VA should be absolutely just dissolved. And I know other veterans are saying, no, please don't get rid of the VA. That's all I have. Okay, I get that. But if that system is not working, you are not getting anything. I mean, you could die before you even get seen. So why not have a system where you can go and be paid for out in public like everyone else? You would get in quicker. You would not have the wait lists and waiting in line. You would get into the doctor like everyone else. And you could have the government, just like they're doing now, have that service paid for. I mean, right now the VA is not paying for you to go out in public and have a private doctor, and they're trying things to not allow you to go out there in that choice program and making it very difficult. They're turning off the doctors that they are allowing you to see in the private sector because they're not paying the bills. Well, that needs to be fixed. And somebody else other than the VA needs to be in charge of all of that. I don't know if you privatize it or if another, God forbid, another department in the government takes it over. But the VA has proven time and time again that they're not successful at doing this. And I know there are some people who have a very good outcome when they go to the VA, and none of this matters to them because it's not happening to them. But when I talk to people, the majority of people I talk to tell me horror stories about what happened to them with the VA hospital. So, I have to look at that and say, out of all the people that I've spoken with, which is probably more than 50 people by now, I mean, I think I've gotten one or two stories out of that where veterans tell me, hey, I have absolutely no problem. And I'll tell you, the veterans who are the ones that tell me that are the ones that are missing limbs, because they know, the VA, they know that if they don't take care of those people, it's going to be very obvious. And then how are you going to explain the fact that you have a man or a woman there with missing limbs that you're refusing to give proper care to? Well, the way I look at it is every single veteran, no matter whether their signs are visible, signs that they have of needing help or not, should be taken care of. It's what we promised them, and we didn't promise them that 2 days ago or 2 years ago. We promised them that years and years and years ago. It's been, 60, 100 years now that we would take care of them when they went over and served this country. And it still should be true. We are not taking care of them properly from what I can see. And we need to get back to where we were when our mission was to take care of the men and women who are going overseas or serving in the service, no matter where you may be, that you will be taken care of. And I can't tell you how many countless people have said, I've gotten out. I was told by the hospital when I was in the military that I would be taken care of when I got out, and then when I get out, they deny my claim. How many claims have to be denied when somebody put in a medical file before you got out that you had this issue? Now you get out and you were told by basically the same people, oh, sorry, we're not going to take care of you. If there's fraud going on inside the VA, that needs to be taken care of. That needs to be found out. Whatever the case may be, somebody needs to be appointed to find out all that's going on. Or, as I said, I think the best thing to do, you just dissolve the VA. Dissolve it. I mean, if you can't get it right in 60 or so years, you're not going to be able to get it right. How many years, again, has Mr. McDonald been in? Have you seen any changes? Maybe there are slight changes, but if you're going to tell me the VA is nothing like it used to be, that it's great and everybody's getting taken care of, I'm going to say, show me. because I haven't seen it, and the people that are talking to me aren't saying that. People deserve to be treated well, and we're not doing it. And then we have some asinine comment that comes out like that, and we allow that man to sit in his office and stay there because what we know that President Obama is not going to allow him to leave, especially when he's on the way out. Are we sitting here waiting? Oh well, when Obama leaves, then we'll do something. And I think we've been waiting for that for 8 years, and we're not getting anything done. It's the same type of principle that the GOP looks at, and nothing has gotten done. We've allowed this administration to do whatever they have wanted to do for 8 years. Whoever gets in office, I hope we don't sit around again and say, oh, well, okay, he or she can, fix this. We'll just wait for it to happen. We have to be like bulldogs. You know that? We have to be like bulldogs, tenacious, never letting go, and making sure the problem is taken care of, because we, the American citizen, no longer matter to this government. They see it as we work for them and not them working for us. You and I know that. You've known that for the past 8 years. You've probably known it even longer and just didn't want to see it. But it's out of control. We have people, the GOP, the Democrats, and everybody else who basically we tell them what we want and they ignore it. And what do? Nothing. Oh, we go on Facebook and we might go on Twitter and a couple of other places and we talk about it. But in the end, they know we are not going to do anything. They know they're going to throw a couple more things at us to distract us. And then what are we going to do? How are we going to take care of everything? I don't know the answer to all of that. I don't have all of the answers. But what I do know is that what we're doing isn't working. We're not successful in getting what the American people want. We are successful when it comes to allowing things to just continue. And as long as we do that, as long as we show the government that's who we are, then that is exactly what we're going to get. And God forbid you get somebody in like Hillary or Bernie who are total socialists, where if you think it's bad now and that people aren't listening and you're not getting medical care, wait until a socialist gets into office. You will get Obama on steroids. And it won't matter if you're a veteran or anybody else. You'll all be treated poorly. You'll be treated the same, but it'll be treated poorly. And if you think socialism works, you better go back and look at your history and see people starve to death on socialism. People do not work for anything because there's no reason to. Everybody can just be average, and it's okay. Why compete? Why do extra work? Why do anything? It's never recognized. You're all the same. You're all treated the same. No expectations or low expectations, and you don't have to do anything, and you'll just be taken care of, but you won't be taken care of, but that's what you'll be told. So anyway, we have got to fix this VA problem. We can't continue to just say we're going to do something about it. I'm open to suggestions. I mean, at this point, where do we go? My solution is to get rid of the VA altogether. And if we come up with solutions, then we have to know that they need to be implemented, and they are going to be implemented. So if you have solutions that you think are viable, write me at susan@susanknowles.com. That's susan@susanknowles.com. Let's have a discussion. Let's start talking about this and trying to get something done. We talk about this individually, but we don't talk about this collectively. And a lot of times we have to have a number of people that come together. I mean, we come together on social media and we say that we're going to boycott Target. Okay, and that's great, and we should boycott Target for what they're doing in regards to allowing men into women's bathrooms. But what about everything else? What about the other important issues as well? We can't remain silent. I don't know, maybe we need to go in every city at the same time and go out and picket in front of a VA hospital or a VA administration office. I don't know. I am willing, again, I want to do what it takes. because this is serious. My father never received the help that he needed from the VA. Even though he had a hearing loss, he never got help from the VA. Because why? Oh, well, that didn't happen to you while you were in service. Oh, no. You went in with good hearing. You came out with poor hearing, but that had nothing to do with the service. Come on. Something needs to be done. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you and discussing this further. Perhaps we need to do go on Blab, and we can all come together there all at one time, and you can say what you feel there. And if you're not familiar with Blab, just go to blab.im and look and see what I'm talking about. And perhaps we can, again, meet there. We can talk face-to-face there, and we can come up with solutions there. Let me know what you want to do. I'm open. But if I don't hear back from you, then I'm going to assume that either you're too busy or it's not a problem for you. So, again, Susan at susanknowles.com. I hope I hear from you on this very important issue. Well, there was other breaking news today, important news. Now, whether it will amount to anything, I really don't know. And this, again, had to do with Clinton. And the headlines, basically, that on the AP is Clinton failed on emails by State Department audit. So, in other words, the investigation by the Inspector General that they did said that she disregarded State Department cybersecurity guidelines by using a private email account and server. And her staff twice brushed aside specific concerns that she wasn't following federal rules. Okay. Right now, at this very moment, why isn't a car pulling up to wherever she's at, picking her up, and taking her away? Why isn't the DOJ filing paperwork, even as we speak, to indict her, to bring charges against her? Why isn't that happening? And I know my questions, it's redundant. I get that, but I'm just saying, why isn't this happening? The Inspector General's review also revealed that hacking attempts forced then Secretary of State Clinton off her email at one point in 2011, though she insists the personal server she used was never breached. Oh, no. Your server, my server, everybody else's server is up for grabs when it comes to hacking. Probably they won't hack you and me because we're not as important as the Secretary of State. So why would we even think that they were tapping and hacking, her personal email? Oh, no. God, that never happened. Of course not. I don't know how stupid she thinks we are. Actually, I think I do know how stupid she thinks we are. Because, again, why would she necessarily think otherwise? She's gotten away with everything. Everything that you and I would be in jail for and underneath the jail for, she's still out there campaigning to be president of the United States. I mean, it boggles the mind where we are and how we got here. And to think that this woman, with all the issues with Benghazi, the issues with the emails, the issues with, look back at the history of the Clintons, and she's in line to be the Democratic candidate, the nominee for president of the United States. And I guarantee you the people that support her, A, won't even hear about this news, or two, if they do, won't matter. It won't matter. They'll be like, oh, well, okay, yeah. I know that you said that, and I know that's what they're saying, but it's just emails. We all have emails, right? You have emails. I have emails. Sometimes things just happen. And, of course, you want to work at home, and what better way to do that is just to use your email. Everybody does it. No big deal. She stressed earlier this month that she was happy to talk to anybody, anytime about the matter, and would encourage her staff to do the same. The 78-page analysis says that Clinton ignored clear directives. Now, why do you do that? Well, when you know you are above the law, that's when you ignore clear directives. When you think that you know everything there is to know, you feel protected, there are no concerns that anything might occur to you. Whitewater. Sorry, did I say that out loud? Anyway, you just keep on going with whatever you're doing because it doesn't matter. She never sought approval to conduct government business over private email and never demonstrated the server or the BlackBerry she used while in office met minimum information security requirements. Oh, no big deal, right? No big deal. If you and I were at a job and this was what we were required to do and we were in that position, we wouldn't be sitting here talking to each other right now. We'd be in jail for a long time. Now, the AP report says twice in 2010, information management staff at the State Department raised concerns that Clinton's email practices failed to meet federal records keeping requirements. The staff's director responded that Clinton's personal email system had been reviewed and approved by legal staff and that the matter was not to be discussed any further. Silence. Silence yourself if you want to keep a job. And you'd better not go out and be a whistleblower because you won't have a job. And I don't know if you heard my recent show with Philip Haney and his new book called See Something, Say Nothing. He's a former DHS intelligence officer that just retired in 2015. Go get his book. Go listen to my show on Stand for Truth Radio. He has a lot to say about stuff that goes on in the administration that we do nothing about. Things that Congress knows about. He's talked to Congress. He told me on the show he talked to Congress 45 times about these issues as a whistleblower, and they've done nothing. And, you know, I mean, yeah, we could sit here and blame Congress, which I'd say they're partially responsible. They have to be. That's their job to, when somebody brings them information on what the administration is doing that looks corrupt or smells of some type of criminal activity, or whatever the case may be, Congress has taken an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States and the people of America. Do your job. And it was amazing how many times he was told by them, oh, you know what? As a whistleblower, you need protection. But not once did they give him any protection. So I'm sure these same people sitting at the, talking about what she did or didn't do, and were told, hey, you know what? Let's not talk about that matter any further. They knew what that message was. They knew you'd better keep your mouth shut if you want to keep a job, and maybe even more. So the audit found no evidence of a legal staff review or approval. It said any such request would have been denied by senior information officers because of security risks. The Inspector General's inquiry was prompted by revelations of Clinton's email use, a subject that has dogged her presidential campaign. Well, it really hasn't dogged it too much now, has it? She's still campaigning. She's still moving on as though nothing has happened. So I don't know. I don't think it affected it very much at all, really. And again, is she still out campaigning today after this came out? Is she still walking around free as a bird? I mean, what more does this woman have to do to convince people that there's an issue that needs to be adjudicated? It's not my job to say whether she's innocent or not. It's up to the DOJ to file charges if there's criminal charges here, which they're saying they're violations of some sort of another. Okay. Not my job to figure out whether it's criminal, civil, or anything else, or what those penalties may be, but it's up to somebody right? DOJ, right? To go forward and do something, do your job. I mean, you can come out and you can support the bathroom bill and saying it's a violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which has to do with the African Americans and getting equal rights. You can make that about bathrooms now. You have time for that. What, you have no time for this? Why is that? Because you want a Democrat in the White House? Is that why Elizabeth Warren has been coming out so much lately? I mean, are you going to file something and Elizabeth is going to have to step in and take Hillary's place? Because God forbid, even worse, Bernie Sanders gets in, the socialist. It all of this makes your head spin. Again, if this had been anybody else, this wouldn't have gone this far. We would have taken care of it a long time ago, and there'd be a court process going on right now. And I don't know, are they waiting until after she becomes president in their minds and then she can pardon herself? Oh my gosh. Okay. It says the review encompassed the email and information practices of the past 5 secretaries of state, finding them slow to recognize and to manage effectively the legal requirements and cybersecurity risks associated with electronic data communications, particularly as those risks pertain to its most senior leadership. Okay, so here we go. Here's the wiggle room. Woo, we're starting to see already. How are we going to get her out of this? Well, 5 other secretaries of state. Now, how many have we had? Well, we had Hillary, we've had Kerry, John Kerry, and then the ones before that would have been what, under Bush, and who knows who else it would have been. So here we go. We're going to go say, well, we've had 5 secretaries of state that didn't necessarily follow the rules like they should have. So it's going to be very difficult just to single Hillary out, because that's going to look like that we have an agenda, and we're certainly not going to go back and get all 5 secretaries of state. No, we're not. Come on now. Come on. We're not going to do that. We're not going to punish them for anything. So why would we just punish her? Right? I mean, she's not even Secretary of State anymore. I mean, oh, wait, that's right. She's going for president. Isn't that above Secretary of State? But let's not go after her. So again, I'm thinking here's some wiggle room where they say, yeah, duly noted. In the future, we're not going to let anybody else have a personal email at home and use their personal server. Anybody who does that in the future, here's what we're going to do. But the 5 of you, including Hillary, that did this in the past, guess what? You're going to get a pass. I'm just saying. It's a very real possibility. He said, but the failings of Clinton, who was Secretary of State from 2009 to 2013, were singled out as more serious. No doubt. By Secretary Clinton's tenure, the department's guidance was considerably more detailed and more sophisticated. That's what the report concluded. Secretary Clinton's cybersecurity practices accordingly must be evaluated in light of these more comprehensive directives. Okay, still, were they comprehensive enough where she would know not to use your personal server, that was against, federal rules and regulations, and here are the violations? I don't know. I'm wondering. Critics have questioned whether her server might have made a tempting target for hackers, especially those working with or for foreign intelligence services. Oh, wait, you mean like the Ambassador Stevens when she was talking to him, and maybe that's what they used to go after him? Oh, okay, I see. Don't let that bother you, though. Anyway, separately from the State Department audit, the FBI has been investigating whether Clinton's use of the private email server imperiled government secrets. You mean like Benghazi Ambassador Stevens? Oh, never mind. It has recently interviewed Clinton's top aides, including former Chief of Staff Cheryl Mills and Deputy Chief of Staff Huma Abedin. Clinton is expected to be interviewed. Oh, God. Another interview where she could come out and say, oh, woe is me. I went in for 8 hours. Nothing came out of it. They just don't like me because I'm wonderful and they don't get it. The audit said a Clinton aide had to shut down the server on January 9, 2011 because he believed somebody was trying to hack us. Later that day, he said, we were attacked again, so I shut the server down for a few minutes. Oh, just a few minutes. Wow, okay. So when you shut it down, did you do anything to assure that the hackers weren't going to come back and hack again, or that they weren't indeed hacking after you turn the computer? Oh. Again, I don't necessarily blame these people who were working for Clinton, although I do think they have responsibility. I mean, come on. What kind of obligation are you under at yourself to uphold the law? And to, again, if your supervisor, your boss, is not following the law, do you not have some obligation? And I know it's dangerous in this event, these circumstances, to come out and say something against the Clintons. I get it. But my gosh, this is crazy. Everybody, oh, well, I had to shut the computer down. I mean, it looked like we were getting hacked. But I didn't do anything after I went to lunch. Of course, they didn't say that. I'm just ad-libbing on that one. The next day, a senior official told 2 of Clinton's top aides, wonder who they were, not to email their boss anything sensitive. Really? But I thought everything was okay, so what's the problem? Saying she could explain more in person. In other words, we don't want this being in writing because we don't want anyone, like an inspector general, going through the emails and seeing that we did something that we shouldn't have done and broke the law. So we'll talk to you in person. And now on Face the Nation this month, Clinton said, I've made it clear that I'm more than ready to talk to anybody, anytime, and I've encouraged all of my staff to be forthcoming. And the audit said 3 of her closest State Department aides, Mills, Abedin, and Policy Chief Jake Sullivan, probably initially declined interview requests. Really? Now that's a surprise, isn't it? Again, things are so out of control. You and I both know that. If this were anybody else, this would already be in progress. But because of who it is, we're still at this stage. Now, I'm guessing that none of this is all going to be really finished before November when it comes time for the election. It may be. I doubt it. I don't foresee any charges by the DOJ, certainly not before November. And afterwards, if she's president, I'm telling you, I think this will be something that may just go away. And we'll just say, you know what? For those who come next time, we're going to make this so airtight that next time the next Secretary of State is going to absolutely know, and if they do any of it, they'll know that they're going to prison, and we'll get that person. But Hillary just didn't have enough information. Although she was told, was she really told? I don't know. Probably not. That'll be the final word. She wasn't told anything. Those people are lying, not Hillary Clinton. Because whoever she's going to be able to throw under the bus, that's who she's going to throw under the bus. Because her legacy, the Clinton legacy, is at stake. And we'll do whatever we have to do to make that legacy go forward. And any of you people who were to find out what it's like to work for somebody that's so powerful that may need you for now, but when they don't need you anymore, you're so easy to throw underneath the bus that it's probably going to be pretty laughable. Not for you, but for the Clintons, who obviously she's like the Teflon queen. She just no matter what you throw at her, bounces right off. You know, I've always said she's got like 9 lives. She can, nothing, nothing happens that for her. She just lands on her feet, gets right back up, and keeps going. These people are professionals. Unbelievable. Well, in other news that just may trump all of the other news items today, we need to, get with the really important news. So, where are the Obamas going to live once they leave the White House? I don't know about you, but I've just been wanting to know that. That's been at the top of my list of things I need to know as an American citizen because it's so important. Well, here's the thing. You see, the Obamas have 2 children. One is getting ready to graduate, and you may want to know this too. She's going to take a year off because, things are difficult sometimes. And after high school, after you've been to the most exclusive schools there are, you need to take some time off. And she's going to take a year off, and then you may be surprised to hear this. I know I was really surprised. She's going to be going to Harvard. Who saw that one coming? She's going to be going to Harvard, and so they have to stay in town because they have the other daughter, and she has a couple more years before she can graduate. Now, we wouldn't want to homeschool her or anything like that or put her in another exclusive school. We're just going to leave her where she's at so that means that the Obamas are going to have to stay in Washington, D.C. I guess, at the end of every term, the president goes out and gets on a helicopter, flies away, and we never hear from them again if we're lucky. Well, I guess this time there won't be a helicopter ride. Maybe there'll just be a limousine waiting. I would think it'd be appropriate just have a taxi waiting. It's like, okay, get in the taxi, get out of here. I hope you have enough change in your pockets to pay for the taxi ride. I know. That would be, I'm being sarcastic, but it would be great. Okay. But anyway, they're not going to go far in the D.C. area. They're going to stay right there. And, you and I, if we had to get someplace in D.C., let me tell you, it's expensive. My aunt used to live there years ago in the 1960s and 70s. And for a little 1-bedroom apartment at that time, it was very expensive. And we're not talking about an exclusive area or anything else. It's just expensive to live in Washington, D.C. I don't know of that many people who live there other than people who, can really afford that type of pocket change or people who live in areas of D.C. that would be unsafe to walk in. Yeah, it's kind of like one or the other. But the Obamas, you don't have to worry about where they're going to live because they're going to have a really nice place to live. It's been said that they're going to be living in a $635 million home, and it is a 8,000 square foot home. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that's pretty small for a family of 4, but don't forget. They have Michelle's mother, who's been living with them since 2009 in the White House, that you and I have been paying for. Well, she's going to be living there with them. And it appears that everybody is going to have enough room, a room for themselves and then some, because it's a 9-bedroom, 8-bath home. And apparently they have signed a lease to stay there. So they'll be staying there for a couple of years, and I'm sure we won't be hearing anything about them. I'm sure they'll just be going about their business, and we'll never know they're in D.C. We'll never hear from him again. It's not like he's going to go to the UN and, travel back and forth there and eventually take over as director, as I've said a million times, which I think he will. But anyway, so I thought that breaking news, I thought you would really want to know that breaking news because that's so all important to what you and I are doing in our lives, to know where a president, soon to be former president, will be living. So there you have it. You gotten the scoop right here. Share that with all your friends because I'm sure, just like you, they're going to want to know where he's going to be. Once again, we have another incident in New Mexico where Donald Trump is speaking and all of these people waving Mexican flags, other people who knows what organization paid them to be there, knocking down barricades, throwing bottles, throwing this, whatever they can do. The police, I think, probably arrested some this time, but we have got to get this all under control. There should not be one incident at these rallies. And, this is just moving on towards Cleveland, where it's going to be so much worse and where it's going to be, oh, look at there. Look at what the Republicans have caused. Look at what the GOP has caused. And continuing to come out against Donald Trump. I know that sometimes the way he says things people don't appreciate. Some of the things that he says I don't appreciate. Some of what he says I totally agree with. And I haven't seen him be racist in what he's saying, and when he's saying, well, we need to close the borders temporarily, not bringing in Muslim refugees. He said some things about Mexico, whatever. I haven't heard anything that I felt that was very offensive. I really haven't. And especially not for something like this. I mean, these people are absolutely paid to be there, and they know they're paid to be there. Quit pretending that you're there because it really bothers you. You're there because you get money in your pocket, or somebody said, hey, there's free beer afterwards. Come over there and raise some trouble, and then come on back, and we'll get you what we promised you. For me personally, I'm getting really sick and tired of people doing what they want to do, feeling that they are above the law, and coming up with all kinds of things to be mad at. I don't think this is one of them. And again, you can be mad all you want. You can say whatever you want as long as you don't interfere with somebody else's right to say what they want to say. And you can be angry. But you can't go and be, unlawful. Something, sorry, distracted me there for a moment. Another breaking news story. But you can't do that. You can't be unlawful and to think that you're able to do that. I have seen so many lately, so many videos of people who the police tell them to do something, and somebody else who's shooting the video says, oh, you don't have to do that. Just do whatever you want. You don't have to be under arrest. You don't have to listen to what the cops tell you to do. You don't have to follow directions. Well, you do. Plain and simple. And people are getting hurt and then trying to blame the police on it afterwards because they don't like what happened to them. And I understand we all have an excuse. We can say, oh, well, but look what happens in Baltimore when you don't do what you're told. Look what happens in Ferguson. The police are all out to kill everybody. So we have to be afraid of the police. We don't want to do what they say. And that's just not true. There are incidences where there are good cops, there are bad cops. There are good attorneys, there are bad attorneys. There are good doctors, there are bad doctors. Every profession that you look at, there are good and bad in every single one of them. But you can't use that as an excuse why you won't obey the law and why you won't do what you're asked to do. You can't do that. And I know, everybody's kind of sitting on edge right now, wondering what's going to happen in Baltimore now that Freddie Gray, that the officer Nero, wasn't convicted. He's a white police officer, and he wasn't convicted. He was acquitted in the Freddie Gray death. Now, as I said all along, and again, I'm saying this and people may not agree, the way I looked at that entire case from the beginning, and I have very limited information. I had to go on what I read in articles or what I heard myself, and I don't have all of the facts. But just in looking at it, I saw no criminal intent for anybody. What I did see was a possibility of a civil action. And, I have to know, and you have to know, that if you're thinking that way, then people who do this as a job every day, meaning the state's attorney and other prosecutors, they've thought this through too. And I think that Marilyn Mosby, the state's attorney, she absolutely knew what she was doing when she came out and told everybody, "Oh, this is for you. You know, we're going after these cops for you." Instead of being professional in her job and waiting until the facts came out. She didn't want to do that. She wanted to come out. She wanted to make a big deal out of it, and she wanted everybody to just, to quiet the nerves of everybody, so there wouldn't be any more rioting or whatever, and to make people think, "Oh, we're doing this for you. We're going to get these people." So in the end, let's say if there's no people to be gotten because they didn't break any criminal laws, then it's going to look like, once again, oh, those white police did this. The white police always are getting away with things because they don't like black people. I've heard so much of that. It's really sickening. I've never seen so many people focus on the color of somebody's skin rather than on the character and the quality of who this individual is. It reminds me so much of the civil rights era. I don't even know anymore. I have to look at a calendar to make sure we're really still in 2016. But Marilyn Mosby knew, or should have known, that most likely what she was looking at with incomplete information when she said everything that she did, again, doing stuff that she shouldn't do as a state's attorney, she knew that there possibly could only be a civil suit against these people and no criminal intent. I feel bad that Freddie Gray is dead. I feel bad when anybody like that who's sitting in the back of a paddy wagon gets killed or anything else. I don't care if they've broken the law. They don't deserve to die. They deserve to be brought to justice, but not to die. And I think what happened was really horrible. And I think when all this comes out, the person who was responsible for strapping him in didn't do it. Or maybe they did and he got out. I don't know. It seems it would be difficult for him to get loose, but I don't know. And she didn't know when she said that either. She just said it because, again, she was trying to appease everybody there. And, what's amazing, before any of this ever was adjudicated in the criminal courts, they paid the family $6.4 million. No trial, either civil or otherwise. Paid them out $6.4 million. Now, how they arrived at that figure, I have no idea. But that was amazing, astonishing figure. And so now people are saying, "Oh, well, that was just hush money. You knew what was coming down the pike. You knew these people weren't going to." These white police officers were going to walk, and so you paid the Gray family hush money. Well, I guess the black judge was in on it too, because he's the one that acquitted the officer. I mean, we've got to stop doing this. I mean, we really do. I wrote an article recently, and I hope you have time to go and look at it. It's at WND.com under the commentary section. And it's called White Privilege Debunked. I really want you to go there, read that, and share that with everyone. And there's some astonishing things in there that you're going to find out, and you're going to see why all of this is just all of these racial innuendos and these racial indictments, if you will, that are coming out in the news, meaning that people like Black Lives Matter and other people are using this just because it puts money in their pockets and pays the bills, I guess. But the whole concept of white privilege even didn't have anything to do about race. But everybody said, "Oh, wait a minute, you know what? We can make this a racial issue." I think pretty soon they're going to make this pen a racial issue. They'll find a way to make a pen a racial issue. That's how far over the deep end that we've gotten in all of this. I mean, it's illogical, but it's the progressive left. This is what they always do. They always find something, find an agenda that they can, grab onto and use it because it fits their agenda right at that moment. So please go there, get my article, take a look at it, and debunk all of these racial type imaginations that people are using. Are people racially discriminated against? Absolutely. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, you name it. It happens. But is there something going on where people are just basically going and saying we're going to get all black people? I don't think so. I really don't think so. So we need to start looking at what's really the truth and stop letting this other stuff influence us. Now, the breaking news that came out that I wanted to tell you about is in regards to Obama's administration over his federal guidance for transgender students in public schools. You remember he came out right after the DOJ had her talk about transgender and using the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Obama came out under like Title IX the next day and said, okay, public schools across the nation, you need to allow transgender students to use the bathroom that they identify with. Whichever one, whichever gender that they're identifying with, that's the bathroom they should be allowed to go into. It's up to them. Well, it's just come out that 11 states are going to be suing Obama for his policy on transgender bathrooms in public schools. I mean, really what he's doing is that he's telling people, if you want federal money, then you're going to comply with what I'm saying. And he, once again, he's overstepped his boundaries. I mean, it should be up to the states, each state, to look at this and say what they want to do. Because I'm not sure this is even a civil rights violation and what bathroom you can use. It would be federal jurisdiction if that's the case. But I think what they're doing is they're taking this and he's making it whatever he wants to make it in order to achieve the goal. And the goal is what all progressives do. It's an agenda. And people have said, I don't know if this is a distraction or what. I mean, this is 0.3% or 0.03% of the population are transgender. And, do I want them to be able to go to the bathroom? Absolutely, just like everybody else. And again, as I've said over and over, this can be totally resolved by having bathrooms for individual bathrooms with doors and locks. Would it be an inconvenience? Yeah, it would be. But you know what? It's probably a little less inconvenient than having a man, a heterosexual male, come into the bathroom to harm women or children. And that's not to say that all heterosexual males would do that. I'm saying those people who say, oh, wow, this is so great. Now this is so much in my favor. I want to do this anyway, and now I have the right to do it. Those heterosexual males who are looking to commit crimes, and this has just been given, they've been given the green light by this administration. And I think, it's too bad that there wasn't more pushback over the years, right? We've had 8 years of policies like this where it's really pretty obvious that he has overstepped his bounds, that he has violated the Constitution, but nobody said anything. And, it's about time. And one of the states, which I knew, sooner or later they would come out, which they always do, thank God, Texas is one of the 11 that will be suing. And I think it's great. It always seems to be that Texas is the one that leads the way on something like this. It said Texas and other conservative states have vowed defiance, calling the guidance a threat to safety while being accused of discrimination by supporters of transgender rights. Texas Lieutenant Governor has previously said the state is willing to forfeit $10 billion in federal education dollars rather than comply. Thank you, Texas. Thank you for stepping up and being the logical, rational one here. Abbott confirmed the lawsuit at a book signing hours before the state's Republican Attorney General was scheduled to formally announce the challenge at a Wednesday news conference. His lawsuit is challenging the way that Obama administration is trampling the United States Constitution. Amen. Again, I wish that these states had done this in the past 8 years, rather than sit quietly and go, oh well, we can't do anything because this is Obama. Ooh, we can't say anything. It's going to be offensive to someone, so we'd better stay quiet. I tell you one thing, regardless of who the next president is, people better not sit and be quiet. I think whether it's being on a radio broadcast, writing articles, getting out in the streets and picketing, whatever that you need to do that's legal to do, I think that's what people are going to have to do. And I am so grateful that people who still have some common sense and common decency left are coming out and saying, you know what, we're not going to take this anymore. We are really sick and tired of being told what we have to do, especially when it's absolutely insanity. And again, nobody wants to see transgenders not being able to go into the restroom just like everybody else. But what we don't want to see are women and children raped and killed. The possibility of that is enough right there. With people with common sense and decency would not go along with this. What I would like to see, I want to see all 50 states stand up and say, you know what? No. We're done with you, jerking us around here. We're tired of it. We know what common sense is, and we're not going to go with a hook in our mouths quietly, because this is craziness. And again, a lot of people feel it's just a distraction. God only knows what's going on that we haven't been told. Just like with the Iran deal that we were told, oh, well, we were working on that now. We find out what? They were working on it 2 years ago or something like that. How much more don't we know? Well, I can tell you how much more we don't know. A lot. Because if these things are being thrown at us on a daily basis, in a lot of respects, you can believe there's so much going on behind the scenes that we don't know. And I'm still sitting here baffled that no one has come out about the Iran deal and said, okay, you know what, this is enough right now for us to overturn that we were absolutely lied to. Congress was lied to. The American citizens were lied to. And really, this is enough, in my opinion. Everything should be reversed. And you wonder how much more we were lied to. Well, Benghazi was one of them. There's not much you can do to overturn that, is there? And nobody's had to pay for that either. When are the American people, when are we going to stand up and say, we are not taking this anymore? And, this isn't just about electing a president. I know many of you are saying, you're screaming at the radio right now going, oh, because you elect Donald Trump and this will stop. You know what? I don't know if it will or not. And one person is not going to stop this. And we can't just sit here and wait for one person. If it is Donald Trump who can stop this, we can't sit quietly and wait for Donald Trump to do all of this. We as the American people need to start standing up. It's just like when the buses came rolling in with refugees from Central America that hadn't been vetted. People stood up in California. People stood up and said, no, turn the buses around. And those buses were turned around. I saw that with my own eyes. So we are the ones that make a difference. We can't sit and wait for anybody else to make a difference. We have sat too long and too quietly. That's not what we're here to do. We are here to save this country and to make sure that this country and our freedoms are not taken away from us because we were too busy sitting around quietly waiting for somebody else. Can't do it. Can't be the way that we conduct business in the future. Can't be. We're going to have to put down the social media, put down the video games, put down whatever else is keeping us from doing these things and get busy. Because it's going to get worse before it gets better. I can tell you that right now. You're going to have more and more people coming out, more and more people at these rallies. And if Trump makes, if he does win the White House, you're going to have even more people doing this type of thing. If this were happening to President Obama right now, those people would be down on the ground, kicked, arrested, and everything else to make sure it stops. We've got to stop all of this. As the American people, we need to stand up.